In lesson 3-7, we're going to be graphing data to demonstrate relationships. So we're going to start looking at linear equations, which we've already been working with, but the word linear in itself kind of means straight lines. So all the equations that we're working with right now are just straight line equations. We're not going to have any curves or anything like that. So looking at example 1, it says copy and complete each function table. So here is the function that we're given, y equals 3 times x plus 1. So looking at our table, it's giving us certain x values. We remember when we called those domain values. So we're going to plug those numbers in. So we're going to do 3 times -1 plus 1, and we're going to do 3 times 0 plus 1, and we're going to do 3 times 1 plus 1, and then 3 times 2 plus 1. So as you can see here, we're putting in different values, and we're going to kind of see how those numbers and what happens when we put in different values for x. So 3 times -1 is -3. If I owe 3 and I have 1, owe 3 and have 1, that means I'm going to owe 2. If I don't have any here, so 3 times 0 is 0 plus 1. I have 1. 3 times 1 is 3, so I have 3 and I have 1, so that means I have 4. And then 3 times 2 is 6. If I have 6 and I have 1, then I have 7. We'll notice here that these numbers are increasing by 3, which we can also see is our coefficient. 3 is our coefficient. So it kind of gives us an idea there that when the coefficient is 3, then each of our sequence terms are going to increase by 3. So that coefficient is a very important number for us. We're going to be looking and focusing with this number quite a bit this year. In example 2, it's telling us to graph each equation. So here we have y equals x minus 2. Notice over here I have an xy table. This here is also an xy table, except for it has this middle column to actually show your work. If you don't need that middle column, just a traditional XY table is fine. Go ahead and choose a couple variables to use. -1, 0, 1, and 2. 4 items there would be good for a domain, and then we need to find our range or output values. So let's plug in -1 to our equation. If I owe 1, I owe 1 and owe 2. So if I owe 1 and I owe 2, that means I'm going to owe 3. If I don't have any and I owe 2, then I'm going to owe 2. If I have 1 and owe 2, that means I'm only going to owe 1. If I have 2 and owe 2, that means I really don't have any. Now, you'll notice here again, we're going up by 1. We are increasing each number by 1. And when you look at what the coefficient is, you notice we don't have a number here. But whenever you don't have a number, remember that 1 times x equals x. So whenever you don't have a number, it's really 1. So increasing by 1 is something we could have anticipated. And then now we have our xy values for graphing. So we have a -1 and a -3. So we're going to go left 1 and then down 1, 2, 3. And that's my first point. And then I'm going 0. And then down 2, and then I'm going to go right 1 and down 1, and then I'm going to go right 2 and be at 0. Okay, so as you can see here, remember we said what linear means. Linear means a straight line. So this is, in fact, a straight line increasing by 1 each time. So we kind of talked about that as being the slope of the line. Kind of like the slope of a hill or the slope of a road. So our coefficient not only tells us what we're going up by each time, but it also helps us out as to what our slope is going to be. Notice we always kind of read a graph from left to right. And from left to right, this graph is increasing. And notice that our coefficient here, remember we said is 1. It's not a -1. It is actually a +1. So these are some of the things that we want to start noticing with these graphs. For example 3, it says graph each equation. So just like the last one, only I didn't give you a table over here. So you're going to need to make an XY table on your own. All right, and then we'll choose a couple values. We can say -1, 0, 1, and 2. Those are always pretty good numbers because it gives us one negative value, so we can see what happens. And then we can plug those numbers into our formula. So 2 times -1. 2 times -1 is -2. So if I owe 2 and owe 1, that means I'm going to owe 3. All right, so put 0 in. 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 minus 1. So I don't have any, and I owe 1, so I'm still going to owe 1. Put 1 in. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 minus 1. I have 2, and I owe 1, so I have 1. And then put a 2 in. 2 times 2 is 4. I have 4 and owe 1, so I have 3. And again, as we can predict from the coefficient, this sequence should be increasing by 2. So, and as we see here, it is adding by 2, adding by 2, and adding by 2 for each number in the sequence. Again, that's dictated by the coefficient of the variable x. So now let's go ahead and graph our item. I would like you to maybe think about it. Do you think it's going to go up from left to right, or is it going to go down from left to right? Again, remember what we talked about. Is this a positive or negative number? And that we always read our graphs from left to right. So let's go ahead and graph and find out. We're going to go left 1 and down 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we're going to graph this next point. We're going to go 0 and down 1. And then we're going to go right 1 and up 1, because it's a 1, 1 value. And then we're going to go right 2 and up 1, 2, 3. And again, remember these are linear lines, so they are straight. Try to make that as straight as we can. And notice it is going up from left to right. So again, that was dictated by the positive coefficient. If it's ever positive, we will go up from left to right. Also look at how we're going up. We're going up by 2, up by 2, up by 2, because this is a number 2, the coefficient. It says we're increasing by 2. All right, for example number 4, notice we have a negative x. Remember again though, x equals 1x. So that means that negative x equals -1 times x. So our coefficient right now, it doesn't look like we have one, but really it's a -1. So let's go ahead and make an XY table so that way we can get started. Choose some variables or some quantities to put in. We'll go -1, 0, 1, 2. And let's go ahead and plug in -1 to this formula. Well, what is the opposite of -1? So you have a -1 or an uh-oh 1. So let's change it to be a +1 then. And then let's put 0 in. Well, a -0 is still 0. Let's put a 1 in, and you just have -1. So that would be -1. And put a 2 in, and you're going to have -2. When we look at what's happening here, we're actually going down 1, down 1, down 1. We're subtracting 1 each time, which should have been obvious to us because we do have a negative x, and we showed up here at negative x actually means -1 times x. So the coefficient is actually a -1, and that's what we're going down by. Now, if you could predict here, are we going to be going up from left to right, or are we going to go down from left to right? Well, remember, we have a negative coefficient, so let's graph and find out. So we're going to go left 1, up 1. We're going to go right at the origin for 0, 0. We're going to go right 1, down 1 for 1, -1. We're going to go right 2, down 2 for 2, -2. Again, this is still a linear line, so that means it's a straight line, as straight as we can make it. And notice here, we are going down from left to right, and that will again started off because of our negative coefficient. And just because there is no coefficient, that means it's 1. There is still a coefficient there. So moving on to example 5, y equals 0.5x plus 1. So let's take a look at that coefficient. I noticed that it's positive, so if we predict, it should go up from left to right. And how much should it go up each time? It should go up by 0.5 each time. So let's go ahead and make an XY table after we've made a couple predictions there. So our X take our XY table. And let's try to be smart about what values we're choosing for X, because I notice I'm going to multiply by 0.5. So it would be smart for us to choose some even numbered integers. So -2, we can use 0, and then let's use 2 and 4. And the reason, again, I'm choosing even numbers is because when I take a half of an even number, it turns out really nice for us. So a -2, half of -2 is -1, and if I owe 1 and have 1, then I will have 0. And when I put 0 in, well, if I have 0 plus 1, I'm going to have 1. And what's half of 2? 0.5 times 2 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then half of 4 is 2. 0.5 times 4 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. And some of you may notice, well, we're increasing by 1 and by 1 and by 1. And you may be wondering, well, why aren't we increasing by 0.5 here? Well, remember that we didn't go up by 1 with our domain. We actually went up by 2. And we did that because it was going to be easier for us to multiply in our head. So just keep in mind that because we went up by 2, that going up by 1 is still a half increase, because we're going up by 2 here and going up by a half of 2, which is 1 here. So now let's go ahead and graph. So let's go left 2 and 0. So we're going to be right there. And we'll be 0, 1. And we'll be at right 2, up 2. And we'll be at right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2, 3. So again, we still have a linear line. Notice how this line is a little bit flatter than some of the others we've made, because we're only going up by a half each time. You'll notice if you look at it, it should only be going up a half each vertical line. It should only be increasing by a half. So it's pretty close there if you look at our line. It is still going up from left to right, just at a slower pace, and again, that's because of our coefficient is positive. That brings us to our last example for lesson 3-7. If you have any other questions or would like to see some more examples, I encourage you to check out the tutors that I have posted to the Moodle site, as long as look at the step-by-step homework helper.